Hello everyone! I am really excited to share with you a tutorial on how to run a datathon for free. I'll be showing you how to do it using the platform CodaLab. CodaLab was created by Microsoft Research and it's really easy to use once you know how to use it. So it's kind of a little bit difficult to get started, and that's why I created this tutorial, because I had some challenges also creating this competition. So what participants will see when you create a competition is something like this. This is an admin view, so besides this, they'll see competition, a nice logo, a title, the different phases of the competition, a welcome message in the overview section, a leaderboard showing the number of submissions per day and the submission score per day. Then they can look at the evaluation criteria, the terms and conditions, different phases of the competition with a description. So for us, they're just two phases. Then they can go here to participate. You can get data from the link. If you have files, you can also put them over here. We didn't, but it's possible. And then they can go and submit and view results. Now, this competition is over, so you cannot do it, but I'll show you on our example one that we're going to make in the tutorial how you can make a submission, or how participants can make a submission. And then in the results panel, you can look at the different phases and see more exact tabular results for the different ones. And I'm a little slow, but there we go. You can see the different users, their team name, and the mean absolute error, MAE, that we see over here, the number of entries that they've made that day. It's really quite nice. And then the final results may be a little bit different. This is on a testing set of data. It's going to load right here. And if you pay attention, you'll see that it is slightly different. Different teams, maybe different scores. So that's great. So if you want to make a datathon that looks kind of like this, then go along and listen on to the tutorial. We're going to show you with an example how you can do it practically, and you can follow it completely using all the materials listed in the description. So let's get going. Once you go into CodaLab, into this website, you go and you create your account, etc., and then you go into My Competitions. You go into competitions I'm running. Now for you, this might be empty. For me, I have, you'll see that I have one item over here. So a little slow, but we'll get there. Okay, then you're going to go here into Create Competition. And then it's going to say Upload Competition Bundle. And now you're like, oh, what is Competition Bundle? Maybe you can see, I don't know what it says over here. Okay, it gives you a little bit of instruction, so that's a great idea. But I'll just explain to you here what is the competition bundle. Basically, it's a zipped folder with some files in it that have to be very specifically, formatted. So one of these a YAML overall configuration file. Then this kind of, you'll see in a moment, explains what's the basic architecture of this competition. Then you want to have a scoring program for each stage of the competition, and then reference data for each stage, and then some documentation file. So let's go and look at these file requirements that need to be into the zip folder. And then we're going to see how you can create such a folder yourself. So this is the main file, competition.yaml. And what it has in it is the title of your competition. So you can see that over here. That's basically going to be, from this competition, this is your title. This is your logo, and these are the different phases. So you can see that over here, title, description, a file with a logo, and has a registration is true, meaning people have to register for the competition. Can also be false. Then for HTML, there's different HTML files that go into the different sections. So overview, evaluation, terms, and data. So all of these you can kind of see over here. All right, overview, evaluation, terms, the data section, I think that's in participate. So all these are HTML files that you have to put into your bundle. So the HTML files are nothing very fancy. For example, this evaluation.html is just that, really. You can also, I don't think it really needs any formatting initially, because after you put it in the bundle, you can go and change it around in a GUI. So the bundle is something initially that you create, that you have to go and put into the system over here. But once you upload it, there's actually a GUI that you can use to go and then edit it. So you don't have to pay too much attention to the initial details. You just want to get the main structure correct. Then you have to list what are the different phases. So for example, you have a first phase, that's the competition phase, the label for it, the start date, the maximum number of submissions that the user any user can make per day. Then it should list here the scoring program. So I created for this example tutorial a scoring program for the validation set and a scoring program for testing set. It's basically the same scoring program, and you'll see in a moment, but it takes in different files. And for one, it takes the validation data, and for the other one, it takes the testing data. So then we have the reference data after we have the scoring programs. This is the different phases, and it shows you the different elements that belong to each phase. And what you're going to see is that we're going to also put into this bundle a zip file that says the scoring program zip file and a reference data zip file. And then the second phase is called View Final Leaderboard. And then you can also call it just the testing phase. And in this phase, I don't let anyone make a submission. What I have is I have auto migration. And what happens then is that the best submission from the first phase gets sent over to the second phase, just gets evaluated and then posted. But it's not going to, you're not going to be, no participant's going to be able to make any new submission. It's kind of like imitating the Kaggle feel where people, only get tested on a validation set, and then for the testing, it just automatically calculates it. Then the leaderboard, you have to specify what the results column label is. So for here, it's just results, and one of the columns is the mean absolute error, which we saw MAE. You saw it over here. If we look at the results, these are my two phases that were kind of mentioned in the YAML file. You can see right here, one of the columns is the MAE. Great, so this is it. So basically, you don't have to think too much. In the GitHub that's going to be provided in the description, you can just copy that whole folder, and then you can change these as you need. This is the basic format. So once you upload it, you'll be able to change all these variables. So you can just use this and then change it yourself in the GUI later. It'll be a little easier. So what is this scoring program? If we go into the scoring program that's in this bundle, you'll see that it is just basically, I think the only necessary ones are evaluate.py and metadata. So let's look at evaluate.py. What does it do? It goes and it takes in a CSV, the truth file, the submission. This it gets from the user submitting on the CodaLab website. And then what I do, and this is code that you can change also yourself, but what I do is I merge the truth and the submission file on a data index, and I add a suffix, true and predicted, and then I take target truth minus target predicted, and I take the mean absolute error of it, and then I say, okay, in the CodaLab, please write out that for this submission, the mean absolute error was this result. If, of course, that there's some error and it's a NaN, I say make sure, show that the result is 404. That's kind of a random number that's very high, at least for this problem. You can change this if you need it to be even higher, if you have large numbers in your data set. I'll also point out that this is for a regression problem, this whole tutorial. If you want to do a classification, that's also fine. Just change this around here to be something more fit for a classification problem. Cross entropy or whatever you would like. And then the metadata, make sure that it's, there, all it says is do this command, take the evaluate.py and take the input and then provide the output. So that's all that's happening here. You don't have to touch this one at all. Mainly, if you want to make any changes, do it on the evaluate.py. Okay, so we kind of looked at what this bundle looks like, and what you'll have to change is mainly, if you're doing a regression problem as well, all you'll just have to provide here is some reference data. So you want a reference data for the testing and a reference data for validation, and also you have to provide your participants the training data. So let me go and let us create that together and follow along in a Google CoLab notebook. And actually, first, before we do that, let's go and review over here what we're going to do for the data. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a data set. Then we're going to split it into three, into training, validation, and testing. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask participants to train their model on the training data and then predict on the full data set. But what they're not going to be able to know is what is the validation and what is the testing. So we're going to score them in one stage, stage 1, only on the validation set. And on stage 2, only on the testing set. But they're not going to know which of the data rows are validation and which are testing. So that way they don't overfit on, the validation set, or, well, they can overfit, but then they might not do as well on the final score. So that's what we're going to do right now, following along in this notebook, was we're going to create the data, and then actually we're going to do the whole bundling and downloading from GitHub as well inside this Google CodaLab notebook. So open the link in the description for the notebook and follow along here. You can run it by running different cells, by click on Shift-Enter, or you can click here on this play button. So I'm going to run here. I'm going to import some packages, import NumPy, pandas. It's taking its time. There we go. Now we're going to create a random data set where I just said, okay, create me random predictors, and the target variable is going to be their sum plus some random noise. Great, so what this looks like, and you probably have your own data set, looks kind of like this. Several columns, predictors, and a target variable. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go and split it into training, validation, and testing. Here I did 12.5% validation, 12.5% testing, and 75% training. This will show you how many samples I have in each different grouping. Then what I do here is I mix up the data, I add a data index, and then I mix up the data again. And this is all so that the users don't know what data is in the validation and what data is in they don't have any kind of indicator via the index, which one is in the testing, which one is in the validation. So then I'm going to take for the training, validation, and testing, I'm going to take different portions of the data. So I have one also that I have the validation and testing together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to then, for one file, which I'm going to give participants, I'm going to have the testing data, no target. So first of all, I also mixed it up again so that no one has any idea which are the validation and which are the testing. I dropped the target, the column target with the final prediction result. And this is what you're going to go and give the participants. So I think I already ran it, but let me run it again just in case. If you go here and you click on this files, and then on the update the folder symbol, you can go here and look, oh, okay, so then you can download it from here, and this will show you, okay, I have to save it somewhere. I don't want to put it in my GitHub tutorial, so I'll just put it right there on the desktop. But that will be, I think you can even see it over here a little bit by previewing it on the right side. Maybe it's a little large. Yeah, this is what you can give the participants. What it has is a data index and on the predictors, and it has no target variable. You can also give them the full training data, which you can see over here. So you just download it to your computer, and this has all of the predictors, and it has the target as well, so they can use that for training. Okay, so now we created the data set. We created training, validation, and testing, as well as a validation and testing together data set, which we can see over here. And now we're going to create the bundle and put it all together, right? So if we remember what went on here, a bundle is basically this YAML file, a scoring program, a reference data for each stage, and the documentation files, which are all those HTML files. Now, as I said, we have it here in this CodaLab tutorial GitHub, so all you need to do is to download it, but you can do that here inside this Google CodaLab notebook. So you go and create a bundle by cloning it here into this notebook. And you can see here it creates a bundle. What you're going to do is you're going to add to this bundle. What I didn't have inside the GitHub is the reference data. And you can use your own data, of course, as well. So I'm going to go and make a directory here where inside the bundle with the reference data. And I'm going to put the validation set and the testing set in there into a file. So I'm going to put bundle, and then a folder reference data validation, and I'm going to put the validation data. And then I'm going to put the testing data also into a different folder for the testing data. Great. And now what I do is I zip the bundle together. And it's zipping, and that's great. And what it's going to create for me is a file bundle.zip. So let me kind of refresh over here. And then I think I just saw it right there. And I'm going to go and download this. save file, and I'll put it, I already have one on my desktop. Let's see if I can delete that and save it again. And actually, let me delete that there as well while I'm at it. Okay. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Let's try this again. Sorry guys about that. Okay, great. So now I have that. And I can go over here, and you probably forgot it, right? And you go and upload this competition bundle. So I'm going to go here into bundle. And it's kind of maybe not show it yet, but it's slowly uploading. And if you have an error, it will tell you now. So let's cross our fingers, no errors. It's loading and thinking about it. And then it says, nice, your competition is ready to view. That is great. There we go. Let's open it in a new tab. And of course, my favorite bird, Black-eyed Junco, is the logo that I chose inside this bundle. We have our different phases: competition, view final leaderboard, competition ends. We have the overview. We have an empty area over here for submission. And that's great. And then let's see what happens if I try to make a submission. So I'm going to go here into participate, submit view results. Oh, yes. Okay, it's thinking about it. And this is what the participants will see also on their side. If they want to submit something, they should write something, maybe hello, my first submission, some data about whatever they want about their submission, my first submission, submission, something like that. Do I know how to spell? I think so. Okay, so, but what do they do? How do they make a submission? So let's go and see, and you can provide here an example for your participants on how to make a submission. So they, for example, can load the data, the train.csv, train a linear regression model using sklearn, and then go on make a prediction. They can even plot it over here, the prediction versus truth. You can see because there's some noise and it's a linear model. I didn't quite catch it, but did a pretty good job. And then they can predict on this training and this testing data. Testing data, no target. So they're going to go on and make a, they're going to load first the testing data, then make a prediction on the testing data, and then they're going to write the prediction to a zip file. This is really important. For some reason, CodaLab only accepts zip files. And they also, another thing that participants need to make sure about is to write it to a prediction.csv. It has to be exactly, that should be the name of the CSV. The zip can have whatever name it wants, but the CSV inside the zip has to be a specific name that you predetermined. So you can just give them, like here I gave you this Google CodaLab. You can also give them an example Google CodaLab and ask them to follow that instruction. So I'm going to go here and write like that. And now it should have created for me a zip file, predictions.zip. So I'm going to go and refresh this. Oh, I didn't need to. And let me go and download. Great. And let me put it in desktop, also great. And let's go and make a submission. So that was that. Let's go and click here, submit, and then put in prediction. And this is going to be a similar experience to what the participants have. It's going to say status submitting. They're probably like wondering what's happening. You can tell them, you can click on refresh. You see now it's running. So that's good news. Maybe if we wait a few more seconds, it will say finished. Now, another thing that's kind of funny about this is that actually to get the results, sometimes you have to do a refresh of the page for the score to actually show. So I just refresh the page, and what do we see here? 1 dot. The high score has a error of 0.1, and that's basically the noise that I added to that linear regression kind of model. And it shows my score over there. And now to go and submit it to the leaderboard, I have to go over here into plus, and I can say, oh, I want to submit this one to the leaderboard. And now other people can go here into results, and they can go and look at the leaderboard for the competition. They can see me, my team name, and my the date of my entry, and my mean absolute error. Now, if you wanted to automatically go and submit user's best score to the leaderboard, you can go and change that later on when you go into the edit panel. Otherwise, the users have to go and decide for themselves what they are submitting to the leaderboard. Absolute error. So that's great. That's awesome. this is how you run the competition. And now, like I promised, you're wondering, well, how do I go and make any changes? So you're the admin of this competition. All you have to do is you go here into Edit. And this panel is kind of slow to upload, so I'm going to go and wait probably around 2 minutes. What I suggest is that once you open it, you wait till it completely finishes thinking. Don't make any changes until it completely finishes loading. We don't want any trouble. Okay, so now it finished running. And what we can see here is, like I said, you can change inside here in the GUI, your title, the description, and I'll talk a little bit about Q. And you can just keep it for now at the default. You can say disallow leaderboard modifying for submission to leaderboard. There's a lot of different options. You'll notice over here, in our submission area. Okay, I already went out on it, but there is an option for you to choose actually what goes, and if you're a participant, you could possibly choose what score you want to be on your leaderboard and what score you do not want. You can update a new logo, add in an end date. You can say, is this publicly available or not? There's different things here that you can add. If you have different users that you want to add in here that are also part of CodaLab, you can add them to also be admins of the competition. You can add a reward. Allow teams, enable metadata. I like doing allow teams, and also I like seeing the teams on the leaderboard. I think that's when you do allow teams, that's what will happen is that we'll add an extra column to add the team name. And then you can kind of look around here, and it becomes much easier with this GUI. You can also go and use it to, if you don't know how to write HTML on your own, you can look and go and create here different web pages and edit them. Really quite nice to use. And this is where the different phases are. You can alter the start date, the maximum submission per user, the maximum submission per day, evaluation time limit, color, and I'm sure what that is. Results scoring only. Is that the second phase or no? I'm not sure what that is. Auto migration, different leaderboards, starting kit, public data. So there's a lot of things here that you can go and play around with. Even I'm not sure what the different things are. And also another thing that's important is, let's say you want to add more input data, you can add it inside your My Data Set section. So if you go over here, you can see I have here a lot of little data sets. You can create a data set, and once you have it in there, you can put it, and this is how you kind of add files into, you first have to add the files here, and then you can add it into those different tabs that we saw in the beginning. And this is the reference data and scoring program. If submission beats old score, put it on the leaderboard. So there's a lot of different options. So take a look at them, play around with them, make a few dummy or competitions before you start. Also, what I suggest to do hide results for the final leaderboard. Otherwise, you can actually see the next phase results all, even in the during the first phase. So I actually recommend to put here hide results. Some other leaderboards, what's the direction? And for example, if you actually want the score to be the higher score is better as opposed to lowest score is better. And after you change all these things, you click on submit, and it will change your competition. I think, for example, for us, it should have added a team name over here. Now, how do you know a participant team name? A user can go here into their own settings, and then they should add, for example, for me, their team name and the team members inside here, and then that will show their team name when they make any submission. One of the things that are really good are this participant panel. It allows you to control participants. Who do you allow to be in the competition? Who don't you allow to be in the competition? I think you can even send a message to all participants, though I haven't actually used that, but that's kind of an interesting capability. Right now, as I set it up, I had to get an email when any participant wanted to join and then to approve them. I think there might be an option to not have to do that if you wanted to make a really open competition, but that ability also to filter out can also be pretty good if that's what you want to do. Anyway, I think that's it. We basically covered everything from start to finish, how to run your own datathon. Look how beautiful it is. It's all because of this gorgeous bird right over there. And it's once you know how to run it, it's nice and it's free. And now you're good to go. You can go and make a great competition that will showcase a nice data set, give people life skills. Absolutely wonderful. Actually, before I quite end, one last thing. Sometimes CodaLab has too many people using it. Right now, you saw we had a submission and it actually ran, pretty quickly. I submitted and then it immediately evaluated it. In case there are too many people using CodaLab, then you might want to have your own resources allocated for doing that. And there is a pretty good actually instructions, and I'll put it in the description on how to add a server for the competition so that it can do the computation only for you. So you're not using a shared resource that Microsoft is providing for free. And then you can, your competition can be more reliable. You won't have people waiting for their submission to be evaluated. And the way to do that, I believe, is to make a queue. I did it like a month ago and I already cannot find it. Let's go over here. I think it should be in the edit. Or actually, okay, now I remember. If you go into my competitions, and then in competitions I'm running, you can have your worker queue management. Now mine is no longer there, but what you do is you'll follow the instructions that I'll put the link for in the description, and then you add that queue in here, and it will allow you to have your own server. I made a little server on Google Cloud for this competition. It cost $20 for a month and a half. Really, basically nothing. It's not adds a little bit cost, but also adds more reliability for the competition. So if anyone has trouble with that, let me know in the comments, and I'll also make a video on how to create the Google CodaLab server for your own competition to make sure it's more reliable. Yeah, so that's it. To remind you what we did, we went from start to finish and created our own competition that can now have, a lot of participants, and will be great. Excellent. Hope you have a wonderful time with your datathon.